Afternoon, gentlemen. Again, I want to thank you for showing up to the Confluence. This is a little bit different than normal. This is not a leadership breakfast. This is not a prayer breakfast. This is a confluence. Technically, it's a place where two or rivers or streams join together into the Mississippi River. It's a confluence with the Missouri River. So it's the Missouri, Ohio, that go into the Mississippi River, and you have those rapids and everything is overflowing, and about 10 miles out, it smooths out in a smooth, deep running river. So and also it says somewhat formal, a situation in which two things come together or happen at the same time. And that's a meeting. So what's happening in this group of men, there are men from all over the world in this country. We have one guy from Nigeria. We used to have some guys from Togo. They're not here. I know there's some guys from the Dominican Republic, USA, and we got different states. We got guys from Kansas here, Michigan, all over the world. And actually one guy from England, Taj, my friend Taj. Raise your hand, Taj, just say hi. And he's been stateside for a couple years or so, something like that. And he's a great guy, smart guy. So I want to welcome you to the Confluence. So coming back to what is CBMC, some of you, it's first time here, CBMC stands for Connecting Businessmen to Christ. You businessmen in America fund every missionary effort in the world. I don't see any money coming into the United States from China to support Christians or missionary work. I don't see any money coming in from Africa, UK, Russia, Ukraine, Mexico, South America. All the American businessmen do in their sense of generosity support whatever missionary, whatever church, whatever thing you want to do from the goodness of your heart. So we at CBMC support the American businessman. We support you. I'm here to serve you and where God wants you to go. And just so happens we're growing here in Dallas. I have Phil Carlson here. Phil, just stand up for a moment. He's full-time with us. He just had a brand new baby. His wife did. And they're just like this. I mean, they're so rattled. I mean, they're doing how to sleep there, what's going on there, wash this, wash that, you know. I mean, it's crazy. And then JT Martin, where's JT? Is he sitting here? Restroom, okay. He's a resident brain trust. He's really smart, but he doesn't know where he's going, but he's following Jesus, so he's tracking. I mean, he's wild. So that's CBMC, and some of you guys got on a previous email list that I've never met before. It came from a database out of our home office, and so I want to thank you first time, guys, for being here. I met some of you before. Eventually, I want to come to each man's office that's just represented here, spend 20 minutes with you, a cup of coffee, see what's going on in your life, what is going on, and how I can help you get to where God wants you to go. That's the whole play of this thing. That's a little bit. CBMC is 91 years old. And I'm not quite 91 years old, but I'm getting close. And my name is Stan Bauer, which I'm delinquent in saying that, but that's who I am. I've been married for 42 years to this lovely woman over here, Laura Bauer. Mother of 4 kids. They're all married. We have 14 grandkids. I mean, she's busy. I just watch her work. I just clean up. She cooks, I clean. It's real simple. CBMC, so what is it that we do? They've got 3 things. We have a purpose. A life without purpose leads you to chaos. What I drive men toward is an intimate personal relationship with Christ. Your own walk, the way he has formed you to do what you need to do. 2, the mission is that I want every guy in here, think about this, we become a disciple maker. A real quick thing, you know the difference between an evangelist and a disciple maker? I'll make a long story short. You can do the math. Let's say you got a preacher boy in here. He starts a brand new church. He saves one guy every day for, let's say, 33 years. How many people would be part of that church here in Dallas at the end of 33 years? 11,600. Would you say that guy did a good job? Yes or no? Yeah. You can respond. It's okay. Yeah. He did a great job. Any church, 11,000, all got born in one at a time, like one a day, multiple vitamins. But the problem is there's 7.6 million people here in Dallas. He hasn't made a dent. Now, if you 60 men get discipled this year, you 60 guys, next year we get two, each guy gets one guy, you spend a year with them, 120. What happens after 33 years? Do the math. Let's see. 120, 240, add it up, right? You don't make a dent in 20 years. You got to remember 7.6 million people in Dallas, 7.8 billion people in the world. Do you realize at the end of 33 years, if you get one guy, not 10,000, one guy disciple him, you get one guy disciple him in the Word of God, and he takes to the next guy, we can reach 8.2 billion people in 34 years. With no more money than you're giving to your church right now. No more social media, no TV, just you with one guy. Now, what would you think would happen to the crime rate, the divorce rate, murder, crime? Now, the Great Commission says what, gentlemen? Go make disciples. So if you're not making a disciple, you really need to think about what's going on, because that is a commandment. If you don't want to do it, I would suggest you do, but that's what we do. So work on discipleship, and then the vision is win men to Christ, disciple them, and multiply throughout the world. That is about as simple as we can get. Makes sense to you? Come join us, okay? It's fun. What's the next slide, please? Young professionals. My young compadre here, Phil Carlson, in charge of that. So, Phil, tell them what we're doing and who we're looking for.
All right, is this on? It is, okay. Well, I want to talk to you for a second about what are you doing with your life. See, I read something in a little devotional that Stan handed me. For those of you who know Stan, you won't be surprised to hear that the name of this devotional is Warnings for People Not Listening to God. Yes, you can laugh at that, by the way. But in this devotional, there's a very interesting quote. It says that strangers will ask, "What do you do for a living?" rather than "What are you doing with your life?" Of course, a lot of us are meeting each other for the first time, so that's obviously the question we're asking each other. Not what are you doing with your life, but what do you do for a living? Why? Because that's what everyone does, right? See, the world insists on evaluating your worth by success in your vocation, while God insists that your worth is derived from His imputing to you a value you would not otherwise have. With young professionals, we understand that more is caught than taught. And I believe discipleship is about 95% relationship and 5% information. Jesus could have taught everything that you read that He said in the New Testament in about 2 days. So then why did He have a 3-year, if you ask John MacArthur, 1.5 years, you ask others 3.5 year, whatever it is, ministry, if He could have said it all in 2 days? Because there was so much more than just information transfer that He was interested in. He was interested in life transfer, relationship. With young professionals, we bring together men who are typically around age 40 and under, who are just getting started or just at the beginning or in the middle of their careers. And they are looking to grow and to learn. They're dealing with family life. They're dealing with so many different things that's still part of that hustle and bustle of the early career life. And they're looking to learn from men who've been around the corner, who've actually seen what it's like on the other side, who've made the mistakes, and have learned how to fall on their faces before Jesus, repent, and actually get those problems that they caused fixed. So we have men come in who are 50 and older, who have actually done some things in the business world, but who know the Lord. And we have them come and share with these young professional men. On top of that, we give a meal. We do some Bible study sometimes. We actually talk about the deep things of life, the things that have to do with what are you doing with your life. So we end up talking about that once a month, second Thursday of the month. We have a morning meeting that happens right here in this building from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Stan facilitates that one. We have an evening meeting that occurs from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Richardson over at the Drawing Board, which is a co-working space. And we right now have 6 openings, 3 in that morning one, 3 in the evening one. So if you know someone, or maybe you are someone who's in that roughly 40, look, if you're 42, 43, you're still welcome. But if you're in that age range, around 40-something and younger, and you would like to hear and learn from older men, but also be in a group of younger men like you who are looking to really live for God and do so in the business world, as businessmen. We're not asking you to quit your job and go be a missionary in Africa. We're asking you to be a living Christian right where you are and to thrive. As one man who's been a speaker in both of our YP meetings has said, he said he had his career life and then he had his church and family life, and he hoped the two would not meet. And then he realized that wasn't going to work anymore. And God used men in CBMC to change his life. That's part of what we help you to do. There's so much more to it than that. What's the cost? $125 a month is the membership. Now, if that is too much for you, then have a conversation with Stan, have a conversation with me. We'll see if we can figure something out. Maybe someone will help sponsor you if that's the case. But we would love for you to check out our young professionals groups. Next one is June 9th. And if you'd like some more information about that, please talk with Stan or myself. All right, y'all have a great one.
Thank you. Take the microphone with you. So during the process, fill out this card. If you have interest in YP or some other things we got going, which I'll announce, put it on here, leave this here, we'll pick it up. Please give me your email address that I have that just to make sure. What's the next thing we'll do? 710 Connection is a prayer time. It's going to be done June 2nd. And that'll be a Zoom meeting if you want to pray. I wanted this to go around the world. We'll just do it for an hour. And it's fun, but it's work, okay? It's just on a Zoom meeting. You can sit in your home, your office, just for an hour. And we're praying for the world and everything to happen. You can get on that QR card. You can take a picture of it. We've got a men's retreat, Solid Rock Camps, August 26th, 27th. I think the price is $65, $75. And Bruce Witt, who did our Confluence last month, we had such a great response from him. I invited him back to do a retreat on mountains and valleys in your life, and the highs and the lows, and how to work through the desert side and the high Rocky Mountain top side. So Bruce will be our leader in that deal. Our retreats are 6 p.m. Friday, and we're done at 3 p.m. Saturday. They're in and out, just like the burger. What's next? We have the Frisco's Mayor Prayer Breakfast. Chad Henning is going to be our keynote speaker. That is October 12th. Now, guys, that's going to be an outreach. We got room for 500 people, so I need 250 guys that know Christ and 250 guys who don't know Christ. So we bring them all together. Chad will share his story and make a request. Okay? First time we've had a prayer breakfast in Dallas from a CBMC perspective since the 1960s or 70s. So that's Chad Henning right there. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Chase Turnbow, Chase Me Films, Grow Your Business Video Marketing. This is Chase right there. Chase, say hello right there. He's also in charge of all the videoing. And let me tell you guys, he's worth about $10,000 an hour. He's quality. I'm telling you, it's like Hollywood quality. He also does my social media. The guy is growing. He's part of our YPs. He's done all this. So thank you, Chase. Who's next on this? Oh, yeah. All right, Brig, you're the man. Come on up. I forgot to mention at 710 Connection, the purpose of this card is a 10 most wanted list. So I'm going to put you right on that side over there. Okay, Coach? So this is the guys who don't know the Lord. You put them on there and pray for them, then you go have a cup of coffee with them. That's the purpose of this card, okay? Got it? All right, have a seat, Brig. We're going to sit down and do this. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. We're just going to wing it, okay?
Yeah.
So I read his whole book, and I brought the 2 wrong books up. Did you bring his book, the original one? Yeah, right there. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. So I met Brig, well, I'll tell you the story, about 16 years ago. Wow. And maybe 17. We'll tell you that story. But then he told me, he said, when I get $1 billion of sales, I'm going to sell my company. And then I got wind that he sold the company. So I called him up. Would you get $1 billion? Yeah. No, but he didn't tell me what it actually was. So anyway, I said, I sold it. I said, okay. I said, would you come down here and speak and this kind of stuff? So he was gracious enough to do so. And so going back about 16 years ago, in St. Louis, we were there for 20 years in the same ministry, and we always have these keynote speakers. So Tony Kalinowski and I go up and interview these guys. Because I don't know if this is a Jake leg. I don't know if he's real or not, you know what I mean? 2 men in a truck, Stickman, you know, this kind of stuff. So we go up there, and we interview him. So how'd that go, and what'd you ask me?
Well, what I said was, did you fly all the way here just to find out if I'm a nut bar or not? And he just stared at me and went, yep. And apparently I wasn't a nut bar enough to not speak, but what had happened was he asked me to speak at St. Louis, and he ran the CBMC in St. Louis, and I'm going to tell you what, it was a huge operation. It was a huge jump for me. I only publicly spoke about Christ maybe twice before that. His wife, Laura, took a look at my stuff and just said, Brig, we need to clean this up. You've cleaned this up so much it doesn't sound like you anymore. And so Laura coached me. She was an absolute blessing. And then Stan, the way he is, made me feel very good. When I showed up there, it's the largest group that I've spoke to even to this day. I think there was about 1,500 people. And I woke up at the hotel room, and I looked out the window, and I was talking to Fran, my wife, and I said, oh, there's some stuff that went downstairs. There's cops all over the place. There's buses coming in. And she went, those cops are directing traffic for the prayer breakfast that you're keynoting. And excuse my language, but it was like, oh, shit. I was like, I'm a fraud. I can't do this. And it really, really scared me. But if God leads you to it, he puts you through it. And it was a great experience for me. I'll tell you, it's interesting to come here, and I've talked with a few of you during lunch, and the guys I talked to, just a really good group of guys. And this is something new for me because Stan ran it where there was thousands of guys. And not only that, but there was a bunch of guys that were with him, that supported him, and that grew that ministry. I mean, at that prayer breakfast, the mayor was there, the chief of police. There was pastors and priests and everything, and they had tables lined up of the important people, and you know.
Yeah, the head table had 50 people at it, like Marlon Crawford.
And they fought to be at that thing. I mean, it was kind of funny, but I think the thing is for Stan and Laura to move here and to start over again, I really look up to him. He asked me if I would come and speak, and I'll do anything for the two of them because they helped me out tremendously. And I really hope that this is the start of what Stan built in St. Louis. He needs support. He needs men that will bring more men here, and also to pick up and do some of the heavy lifting for Christ. And we'll get into that a little bit more about my life as not being a Christian and being a Christian, and talking about the importance of discipleship. But anyway.
All right, hold on. All right, you're going too fast, too far. It's hilarious. So actually, Tony and I went up there, and we interviewed him, go to the warehouse, and in 2 Men in a Truck, the corporate headquarters, they built a house in there. And they teach these men how to move furniture. And every bad corner in the house is in that house in the warehouse. I mean, short steps, U-shaped stairwells, short ceilings. I mean, it's terrible. Nobody can move any furniture. It's hilarious. And they train the guys how to actually move a piece of furniture. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we got along quite well, and it was great. So he came down, he spoke, it was great. So here we are. So he wrote this book. So I finished it a week ago. I got one of 20 copies that are the forerunners to the real book, which is going to be for sale back there for $25. But let me tell you something. This is a great book. You got to read the last 3 chapters. And I finished it a week ago Sunday night, and my mind was just spinning about things to do. I mean, it stirred so many different thoughts about where to go and what to do. So we're going to get into it, learn more about Brig and the whole thing. So Brig, is this it? Is this what you really work for? In chapter 1, you talked about this. And I folded this one page over. It says, due to the impersonal and sometimes harsh approach of many adults in the 70s, my grandpa enjoyed daily opportunities to impact the world around him by doing little things. How many people can you impact today by simply taking the time to listen and respond with care and respect? So you have a lot in that first chapter, but what thought does that stir that from you learned the lesson from your grandpa that you employed into 2 Men in a Truck and customer service?
I'll tell you, one of the things I learned is don't just go throughout your day in a bubble. It's take a look at everybody that you're dealing with and realize that they are God's creation. They're human. And talk to them. And this sounds so cliche, but try smiling when you walk up to a bank teller or the person that's going to check out your groceries. They will smile back, I guarantee it, always. And make an honest conversation with them and try to engage in the people that are in your everyday. And it makes a huge difference, not only to them, but to yourself. And I mean, I did it last night. I was staying at the hotel. I went early. I had 1 beer, and I had dinner, and I had a great conversation with the bartender. And then this morning, I had a great conversation with the lady that brought my eggs. I mean, and it becomes pretty much it's giving value to what I would say the ordinary. And these people just light up when you do that. And there's simple things that don't cost any money to do.
So in page 41, when you buy the book, but if you want to make a lasting impact while achieving your dreams. So do you guys have dreams? I mean, really, financial dreams, personal dreams, yes or no? Raise your hand. Come on, we all got dreams. You know what he says here? Put others first. Connect first as humans and validate their issues. It's the people that are important. So in 2 Men in a Truck, that's what he did. So he went into chapter 2, he's a worker in progress. All this work was just, all this work wasn't just padding my wallet, it was building my self-esteem. I didn't think about the bigger questions of life. I just liked the way work made me feel. Later, I realized that I learned working those jobs influenced how I've become. So he quotes a proverb, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. The hand of the diligent will rule, while the slothful will be put to forced labor. What's your application with that with 2 Men in a Truck and what you took as a worker in progress early in your life and 2 Men in a Truck?
Sometimes where we find ourselves is we go into the day-to-day. I mean, you have to understand, I worked on the trucks until I was 32 years old. I was in my mid-20s. I had friends that were working at GM, knocking down some serious coin, and I was working on those trucks. But what I found was, if I'm going to be a mover, I'm going to be a very, very good one. And when you're on the trucks too, you're only as good as your weakest link. So you're only as good as your partner that you're working on. So your goal really is to keep them pumped up, keep them going, keep them working. Another thing that I noticed too was there's always something to learn in whatever job that you're in. Even if you think as mundane as a mover, there's something that you can learn. What I learned in the situation that I was in was that when people are moving, they're typically stressed. They're moving from the house that they've had forever into assisted living. It's a divorce. They're not all great moves. It could be the downturn in the economy, whatever it is. But I learned to communicate with people. I learned to when to talk. Somebody needed a joke. We always had a joke. Some people that were upset, you learn to be quiet. You learn to smile. You learn to read these people. And I soon became more of a master of understanding people than it was of moving furniture. And that's when I realized that, man, God can open up opportunities for us right in front of us. And the people that I see that really struggle through life, and they have a tendency to think, I have just been in a dead-end job, I've never got any breaks. If they could rewind their life and take a look at the opportunities that were around them to learn, that they could take that and parlay that into something better when something moves forward. I learned about people skills when I worked on the trucks. Those people skills came from, then I started marketing the franchises. I started bringing franchisees into the system. I was very good at that. Then I became a franchise business consultant. My job was to consult these franchises. Well, I was damn good at it. Why? Because I brought them into the system, so I knew who they were. I knew what their hot buttons were. Plus, I had my own franchise. I did all those things. From there, I became a vice president where I helped my sister run the company for a number of years. From there, I learned to be the president. And then from the president and CEO. It's the largest moving franchise in the world. And I never took a business class in college.
How many years did it take you to get out of college?
To get through college?
Yeah.
5 years to get a 4-year degree in urban planning and land use regulation.
So your degree has nothing to do with what you did?
Nothing. But it's funny because I'll ask my movers, raise your hand if you know what that is, and they don't raise their hand. And I go, that's funny because I don't either, and I paid for it.
All right, here's another question. Now, when he started this in high school with his brother, and a few years later, his mother drew on a napkin with a Sharpie, the Stickman of 2 men in a truck. So he's on his first job with this. There's no backup plan. This is plan A. There's no plan B, C, D. This is it. You know, you die or do it. So he's moving this lady. He says, "Is there a problem, man?" She says, "You look upset. We thought we were paying for 2 men. We're expecting big, strapping lads, but not, to sound mean, we got you." He says, "Ma'am, I understand. How about we work for 15 minutes? If you feel we're not up to it, just let us know, and we'll call the office and have them send some bigger guys." She says, "That's fair." What's the rest of the story?
Well, there was no office for bigger guys. So we were walking a tightrope with no net. We were used to it. I'm not a very big guy. My brother's a bit smaller than I am. But the first thing we would do is go down into the basement and grab the freezer. The stand-up freezer. In Michigan, we all had basements, and practically everybody had a freezer. We moved these, probably 4 or 5 of these things a week. That'd be the first thing that we would grab. And the reason we would grab that is because that was, in their perception, the heaviest, hardest thing to move. If a Matchbox car or a pen rolled underneath it, it was gone forever because it was like under the black hole, right? John and I would go down there, pat it, strap it, and horse it up the stairs and put it on the trucks, and their jaws would drop. And then we would go and throw a lazy boy over our shoulder, walk it through the door and put that on the truck. And by that time, there was a big apology. "We are so sorry." It's like, "Ma'am, don't worry about it." But we also knew we'd get a big tip from that too, because just to ease their conscience of that. But we got that. I got that all through my moving career. But it's just, you just grind through it.
So starting this business, there was no net. You get it? Starting your business, there's no net.
You got that? We got it, Stan.
No security.
We got it, Stan.
All right, finding the right teammates. How do we find the right teammates? You discovered the power of buddying up at an early age. You did that with a buddy, mowing a yard, right?
Yeah.
And you did that. Then what happened after that? And then who'd you team up with?
Well, always. I just worked better with groups. I always did. And it worked out well because once we had our franchise, I worked on our franchise was tiny. I mean, we ran it out of our house in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we ran it out of the house. And I always knew that you're about as good as your partner. And so it was very important to work in groups and I learned at an early age to block and tackle for the people around you. Make them better. Don't beat them with a stick. It's just show them how to work. And I took that all through as more and more people began to report to me as I started moving up. I always like to work in groups. And it's important to share. Businesses, all of your businesses have a sense of adventure. You know what it is. You know that feeling of adventure. If it's either closing a deal, It's getting your back slapped by a customer because they're so happy with the job. It's financial. It's all these things. You have to share those things with the people that work with you. I had a great, oh my gosh, it was such a great slide. It showed this bloody zebra on the ground with a bunch of lions all just ripping into it. And I just said, it's like the lions work to make a kill. And when the main lion makes the kill, everybody eats. And so I said, everybody needs to eat. And I had a lady come up to me afterwards, and she went, that was a good point, but your slide was really disturbing. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm keeping it because I just love it. So when I spoke in the UP, I showed the same thing, and I went, oh, this is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I switched the slide, and it was a bunch of wolves eating a moose. So they basically got the same thing.
Yeah.
It's let everybody eat, let everybody enjoy it. I learned early when 2-minute trucks started getting bigger and bigger, we would get newspaper and magazines and news would want to come in and talk to me about a specific marketing thing, a specific IT thing. And it's like, hey, Dawn, TV6 is here. They want to talk about the marketing. Why don't you do it? She's like, I never have done that before. I said, well, you're going to learn now. Have fun with that. But you're allowing people to grow and to find themselves. And when they're part of the adventure, then there's a sense of ownership that they have for the business. And they will dig and claw and fight for that business as long as they feel like they're a part of it.
So you value the customer or the employee.
Big time.
Now back just a little bit here. Good friends can make a profound difference in your life. This is finding the right teammates. But it doesn't mean they'll stay around forever. Some are there for a season, and some may be time to gratefully let them go and move on.
Right.
So a little about that, then let's talk about Fran. Your
Okay.
the most influential person in your life is Fran.
This is key, and we're kind of bouncing around a bit, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
we are.
You're making me think on my feet. You are not going to, in most cases, hang on to the same friends. I'm looking at all of you, and I'm looking at myself. There are people in our lives that we should not be hanging out with, okay? I got an email from my rugby team this morning that curled my toes, and it was like, I shouldn't be hanging out with these guys. You all have them. And there's a time in your life that, especially when I brought my faith into the business, there was some people I just simply had to let go. I mean, people that I've known for 30, 35 years. You know what? They don't bring honor to my God. They don't bring honor to my marriage. They don't bring honor to my work ethic. I'm not talking about people that are having a hard time and you need to help them through. That's something different. I'm talking about people that suck your will to live. Whenever they call you, whenever you're around them, you have to, even at our age, you have to detach from some of these people. Some of the best friends I have now, I did not know 10 years ago. And it's always to better yourself. You are the average of your 5 best friends. So take some time this afternoon to write a list of your friends and really take a look at them and see what they bring to your life. Because sometimes it's healthy just to let them go. And you don't need a big soapbox thing to let them go. It's like, I'm not talking to you again because you suck. No. It's more like, if they're a boat tied to your dock, at 3 in the morning, wake up really slow and untie them and just push them away. There's no noise, there's nothing, they just go away. And you do that by not answering every email, not answering every text. There's jokes that come in that you know that, okay, that's enough of that. Just don't answer those things. It's called being the gray rock. The gray rock is the most boring thing in the world, a gray rock. And so when you have people that you don't necessarily want to see anymore, be boring to them. Be a gray rock. They'll eventually find other places to go. In the meantime, take a look at people that you admire, that you like, and say, I want to be more like them. I want to get to know them. And you will start to, all of a sudden, bring in new people in your life that will make your life more challenging, exciting, and more colorful, if that makes sense.
So how did Fran become your best friend and most influential person? Tell a little bit of a story about that.
Stan, what part? What part?
College, and then you went going all in, you got married, and went to the...
Fran was, I met Fran, and I'm really shorten the story up, but I met Fran in college. I love Fran. There was something really unique about her. At this point, I was not a churchgoer. I was not a Christian. I was not an atheist, but I just thought basically church was for weak people.
Wimps, huh? Wimps.
Wimps.
Yeah.
They need a process to get through life because life is tough. That's fine. I did believe that there was a God out there. I thought that it was a God that rained hellfire on bad people, a God I had to prove myself to. But I figured compared to the rest of the world, I was a 5-star recruit compared to the rest of the world. He'd take me if there was a God. Fran came into my life. Fran was number 12 out of 14 kids. She was the only one out of all those kids to go to college. And when I met her, she was like an adult. She held 3 part-time jobs to put herself through school. She got really good grades. She was also smoking hot, but let's just put that aside. And once I got to know her, I started to go to church with her, and I started to notice there's some of the rugby guys I played with actually went to church, and I went, okay, maybe not all weak people go to church. And I started watching how she lived her life, and she was just responsible for herself, making her own opportunities happen, and I fell in love with that. And as Fran and I, we dated for a little over a year. We took our relationship too physical. I got Fran pregnant. Here we are in college. She tells me that she's pregnant, but she tells me, you don't have to marry me. I am going to have this baby. I know people are going to try to talk me out of it. I'm going to have this baby, and you don't have to marry me. And the first thought that came to my mind was, and again, if she would have asked at that point in my life for a ride to the abortion clinic, I probably would have given her a ride. I mean, that's where I was in my faith walk. When she told me that, I fell in love with her even more because it was like so typical of Fran. She will be all right. And I pleaded with her to marry me. And we got married, and that was 36 years ago. And still in love with that lady because she's still that way. And she was one that helped beginning my faith walk.
So what was your house built out of, the $15,000 house you purchased the Upper Peninsula?
We lived in our first house we bought was a 1500 house. It was put together by a bunch of different things. There's actually some billboards that were used as 4x8 sheets of plywood. When we eventually ripped everything off to reside it, it was like, son of a bitch, what is this thing made? I mean, it was just thrown together. We had a lot of animals. They weren't domesticated. There were squirrels. There was mice. There was bats, all living in the house. A lot of funny stories in the book about the house. But if you ever watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life, they buy that old house. It was a lot like that. We slowly worked the house together. I remember the last time my dad was in it, he was like, wow, this is a real house. No. I went, well, it kind of was all along, Dad, but thanks. My brother-in-law, when we first moved in, he said, Brig, he said, grab your hunting guns and other things that are valuable to you and go away for the weekend, and I'll burn this place down. You can take the insurance money and buy a real house. I'm going like, and there were times that brought me great joy thinking about that, but it's like, I'm just going to keep working on the house.
So what was your stove like?
So we move into the house, and my father-in-law, World War II vet, recovering alcoholic, father of 14 kids. I have him take a look at the house, and he goes, this house will be here long after me and you are dead. And I went, that's all I need, bud. Bud, right? So I went and I bought the house, and then 2 weeks later, he shows up to help us move in with Fran's mom. He goes, why did you buy this piece of shit? And I went, are you serious? I mean, I hyperventilated. It was like, you said it'd be here long after you and I were dead. And he goes, I did? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, let me grab my tools. I was drunk. He nailed me good. So 2 weeks later, the stove it dies. Fran and I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. we called Bud up and just said, Bud, is there any way we can fix this stuff? He goes, I got a stove for you. I'll be right there. He lived 2.5 hours away. So he shows up with 2 boxes. He brings them in. I goes, Bud, that's not a stove. And he goes, I know. He goes, it's a stove and an oven set that came out of a 5th-wheel trailer. And I went, well, what are we going to do with that? And he goes, do you have that old dresser that came with the house? I went, well, it's in the basement. And he goes, bring it up. Let's bring it up here. And I went, I still don't know what you're doing. He took a Sawzall and he cut the top of the dresser off and he put the burners in it. Then he cut the drawers out and he stuck the stove in it. He plugged it in, everything turns on, he goes, and he walks out the door. And I just went, mother, I'm still poor. And it was the most hideous thing that you've ever seen in your life. But it worked really, really good, and we had it for over 3 years. We got used to it. People would walk in and go, what the hell is that? I would just, it's a stove. What does it look like? What do you think, you know?
Hard to bake a cake like that. So is this it? You come down to the point that you're mowing the yard and the business going good and 2-man a truck. I can't remember where in the career of it. But you got a bottle of bourbon or scotch or something and a cigar.
Yeah.
So tell us how you made that. You went that depression.
Okay, here's the most important thing that came to me. During this time that Fran and I were married, I started going to church. 2-man a truck was starting to pick up. We're making a little bit more money. And as we did, we started giving more money to nonprofits. And things just kept getting better. So I kept thinking, well, that's the game. The more that you give, God will take care of you in return. It was a game I could play. It was no problem. That's not faith. I was going to church weekly. That's religion. That's not a relationship with Christ. There's a huge difference. During this time, my goal was to make money and to be wealthy. Why? Because I lived in a $15,000 house, okay? We didn't have much money. We had Alicia was born. She was a welfare baby. We had to use welfare to bring her into the world. I was a guy that worked all the time. Being poor scared the hell out of me. And I just wanted to be out of that. And so I worked and I worked, and I finally got to the point where we moved. I was back at the corporate office, which wasn't much of a corporate office at the time, but we bought a house, a brick house, ranch house with an outdoor pool. I had a little bit of money. We went out, we leased an Audi A4. I went, man, I made it. I'm not going to be poor. And this has been my whole goal, was to make this. And so.
How old were you?
I was 32.
Okay.
And I got a Frank Sinatra CD to play in the. I didn't even listen to Frank Sinatra. But I thought he was a very classy guy, classic music. I got that. I went out and bought a bottle of Johnny Walker Black because I thought sophisticated businessmen drank scotch. I thought about joining a country club where I could rub elbows with other rich guys who tell war stories about our businesses while we're playing golf. I was just excited about that. And one day I came home. Fran was gone with the kids. I mowed the lawn. I cleaned the pool. Just the smell of that fresh cut grass. The pool was sparkling. I thought it's time to have that scotch and that cigar and celebrate my success. And I swear, guys, this happened. This really, really happened. And so I sat down. I didn't have a booze glass because I wasn't a bourbon or scotch drinker. So I just found this. I wasn't going to drink it out of my kid's milk glass, you know. So I found this chunky glass that kind of resembled that. Put ice in it, poured some scotch in it, cut my cigar, and I take one sip of it and I almost puke. I mean, how many of you drink scotch here? Come on, man.
I used to.
Okay. I told that story in front of about 1,000 people in, I think it was in Alabama. I asked that question. Nobody raised their hand. I went, we had a bunch of liars here at a prayer breakfast, man. And all of a sudden they laughed and all their hands went up. So, anyway, I thought, wow. I remember pouring that out and thinking, I hope it doesn't kill my grass. I said, I'll find a new drink. I can drink pink squirrels. I don't care, man. I mean, I'm a success. I finished my cigar and just thought about it. And I thought, it's going to take me a while to understand this new way of life. And that's where that happened. You want me to tell where it goes from there?
Yes.
The very next day I woke up and I felt absolutely horrible. I felt, not physically, but something. You guys have been there before, a little bit of shot of despair, a little bit of like, it's like, wow, what the hell is this? What's going on? And I couldn't shake it. And it happened the next day. And the weird part was the business was doing extremely well. We were adding franchises monthly. We were featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I mean, Oprah Winfrey had pictures of my family, me on there. I had high school friends I haven't heard from years call up and say, I saw you on the Oprah Winfrey Show. My dad calls up. I just saw you on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I said, Dad, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Why are you watching Oprah Winfrey? I mean, don't you have something to do? I think that was hilarious. But anyway, but it was true, but I could not shake it. And I went to Fran. I just went, you know what, Fran, I think I've got cancer or something. She's like, what? I said, I don't know. I said, how could you have everything that you've wanted your whole life and not be happy? Our kids were in their new schools or making their sports teams. I mean, I looked for something to hang this nasty hat on. I couldn't find a hook for this. It didn't make any sense. And so she said, go. She said, I'll make an appointment with the doctor. So she made an appointment, and the doctor, he looked me over, and he goes, you know, other than the fact you're a little bit short, you're in good health. He goes, you know what? Guys your age simply deal with depression. And he simply wrote me a prescription for depression, and I walked out the door. Depression is real. I'm not making fun of it. I'm not belittling it. But I'm telling you right now, it was more of a despair. I said, how could I feel on top of the world and then feel like this in a matter of like a month? And so I did not. I said, I got to get to the bottom of this. I got to find out why. And from there, I woke up the next morning, went to work, cloudy Michigan cold day, and I got online and I saw an ad for the Left Behind series of books. You guys seen that with Tim LaHaye? Kind of talking about like Revelation kind of thing. Well, that was right in my wheelhouse because I was a guy that needed validation. I needed to know I was okay. And I went, I'm going to heaven. He'd take me. I wouldn't be left behind. I mean, I give money to a multitude of nonprofits. I'm not chasing women around. I'm not hanging out at bars. I'm coaching my kids. And so I got the first book, and I'm going to tell you something. The book, just reading the book, got my mind off my despair. And I want you guys to know what that feels like. Imagine a migraine headache, and if you could read something that got your mind off the headache, where it freed you up for a little bit, you'd probably do it. So I started reading that book in the evenings before I went to bed, and then after a while, they kept talking about the Bible. And I thought, maybe I should look at the Bible. Is this BS or not? I mean, they keep, you know. And I look, it wasn't word for word, but it was saying basically the same thing. And I finally thought, maybe I should start reading this. So I came into work a half hour early, started reading the Bible, and then at night I'd read the Left Behind series. And then what I found out was, you don't have a relationship with Christ. Yeah, you go to church. Yeah, you give to nonprofits. Yeah, you're involved in religion, but you don't know Christ. So I went back home, sat on my workout bench, and I prayed for God to come into my life. I prayed for Jesus to come into my life. I asked for forgiveness for just taking him for granted, for sacrificing his life, and I just took that for granted. I took Fran's faith all these years for granted. And I said, I'm not the sharpest tool in your spiritual shed, Lord. But this prayer is just between you and me. And now, was there pixie dust flying all over and all of a sudden all these cherubs were? No, there was none of that. I mean, there was none of that. But there was a sense of relief. And it took a while, but what it started was a hunger to know this Jesus more. And I started praying to God, God, show Christ to me. I don't know who he is. And all of a sudden, things started going into motion. One of those things that came into motion was CBMC. A friend of mine who, I want to punch him in the face for a few different reasons. Every time somebody would ask him for money, he'd go like, I don't have any money, but go talk to Brig, And so finally I went, Kurt, stop doing that. It's pissing me off, okay? Well, he did it with Mike Winter, and I went, here we go again, So Mike Winter shows up from CBMC, and he starts talking to me, and I knew right away. I was like, no, this is an answer that was a prayer that was answered by God. And so Mike Winter started talking to me, and he said, how about Project Timothy? And I went, yeah, I think I need that. And so he walked me through Project Timothy, which laid out the relationship that we should have with Christ. It was like, wow, this is really, really good. And then Mike, it wasn't just about Project Timothy. He also read a lot of good Christian books, which I just love. And so I started reading those, and then more things came. And my prayer life got stronger and stronger. And pretty soon, I'm chasing Christ. I'm chasing him. I'm looking for things. And then it dawned on me, and I want you guys to understand this. Again, I'm not preaching to you. I'm just telling you what happened to me. There's and Bishop Barron, he's one of 4 devotionals I read every morning. He calls it the ego drama and the Theo drama. The ego drama is where I was. The ego drama is, Brig, you got to make money. You got to live your life. You got to live it like this. And so the ego drama is you are the writer, the producer, the director, and you are the main character in your story. Where does that story go? What is that story all about? That story is all about feeding your personal ego. And it doesn't work well because what you happen to do in the ego drama is you walk over people because you're taking care of yourself. You're walking by incredible opportunities that Christ puts in front of you because that does not fit your story. What dawned on me when that cigar and that whiskey moment was I was smart enough to realize I made it to where I want to be. Now where I want to go again, it's a mirage out in the desert. It is that little palm tree with the green grass and the little pond way out there. And by the time you get there, it's gone and you're doing it again. And there's a lot of people that can't stop doing that. And what happens is that's why you see movie stars and that's why you see sports figures and politicians in their slow motion train wrecks in their lives because their ego dramas don't go anywhere. What I realized was that moment in my basement when I asked Christ to come in my life, I joined the Theo drama. The Theo drama is God is the writer, the producer, the director, and he's asking you, do you want to play a part in my story? And that's what I did. And when you play a part in God's story, you better buckle down and hang on because he's not a Jesus that has a lamb wrapped around his neck telling you to be nice to everybody. You bring him in the business and watch what happens. And 2 Men in a Truck grew during the recession. You have to understand the recession back in the early 2000s was brought on by the debacle of the mortgage industry, which is tied pretty much directly to the moving industry. And so that is what this book goes into great detail about those just-in-time saves and why God can take somebody, an urban planning and land use regulation guy, and run this thing and build a team and build a company that was sold last year for hundreds of millions of dollars that started with a 66 Ford pickup truck. Doing that was like, it's like Christ saying, is that what you want? You think you're wealthy? Follow me and make a difference and bring disciples to me. The money part, yeah, that's pretty cool, but it's all of a sudden you start realizing the importance of Christ and living in that ego, living in the Theo drama, not the ego drama. I want to add one more thing, if you don't mind. I had an epiphany about 2 years ago. I was in Mass right during COVID, and the priest comes out and he goes, notice how there's not too many people in here? And we're like, yeah. He goes, there's a lot of people not coming to Mass because they're scared of, their health is compromised. They just can't be around crowds. I get that. He said, I talked to those people. We worked out plans. He goes, but there's a lot more people not showing up because Mass is different. You're not getting the host anymore, the Eucharist. We're not singing songs anymore. They're mad because the Mass is different and they're not coming to church anymore. He goes, it's interesting. He said, do you believe in the body of Christ? Do you believe the Eucharist is the body of Christ? If you're not Catholic, just deal with this story because no matter who you are, it relates. I guarantee it. And everyone in church goes, yeah, we believe that. And he goes, do you believe that this is the body of Christ? And we're like, whoa. I mean, typically our masses, the priests don't talk to you back and forth. So everyone's a little bit in shock. We're like, yes, we believe that. And he goes, really? Because if you did, when this church was locked, you would have ripped the doors off to get to this. He goes, if you're good enough, if you're healthy enough to go shopping and go out to dinner, but not enough to go to Mass, he goes, that's what I love about this. That's what I love. It's the only thing I love about this disease. This sickness is, there is no riding the fence. Either you believe it or you don't. And I went, oh, hell yeah. I mean, I love that stuff, man. Don't you love that? I mean, I went home and I just went, gosh, it is so good. It's so, so good. Bishop Barron then goes on to say the next day, and this is a national, these aren't even connected, but this is how God talks to me. Because remember I said I wasn't the sharpest tool in the spiritual shed, so God usually brings three things at me at once. This one he just goes, the body of Christ, he goes, the manna that fed the Israelites as they left Egypt, this gave them their nutrition until they found the promised land. He goes, and for Catholics, he goes, this is the bread of life. He goes, this is the new manna. This is the new manna that will help you get through your life. Here's my point to all you guys. He goes, is taking that once a week going to feed you until you go to heaven? And the answer to me is no. For the non-Catholics out there, if you are going to church once a week to hear the word of God and you are a believer, and yet you can't find it upon yourself to inject Christ into your life a little bit more, do you really believe that Jesus died for your sins? Do you really believe that? Because if you do, you're going to chase him more. If you're half-assed doing it, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. Don't look out the window for excuses. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, why aren't I chasing this Christ that died for my sins?
So tell them the story you did at the YP about working out, like the analogy working out once a week.
And that's it.
And share that with them.
Yeah, it's the same thing if you believe in fitness. And I'm a 59-year-old guy, and I'm doing what I can, right? It starts to fall apart after a while, but come on, man, I'm doing my best. But I'd go to the gym, and I tackle the gym a lot like I do with my faith. I try to do something, as a Catholic, I go to Mass almost every day. But read devotionals. I do these things because I'm chasing this Creator. And if you're a workout guy, and there's a couple of you guys are looking pretty beefy, okay? You guys know what I mean. Are you going to get the kind of body that you want if you're going once a week? Could you imagine going to the gym for 50 minutes and think that you are going to metamorphosize your body into something special? Bullshit. It's not going to happen. I would see it at the gym. I would see people show up, and I worked out the same gym for 4 years, and I would see people that were never pressing themselves. Ball slams on the ground. They would pick them up and just drop them. Slam that sucker on the ground. Leave your feet when you slam that ball in the ground. Work for it. That is how good things happen. And it's like, if you look at it with your faith, if you're going once a week for 50 minutes or an hour, and again, I'm not preaching, I'm only talking about for myself, it wouldn't work. And so there's ways at your churches, no matter what you are, there's a lot of Wednesday church services. See if you can start making some of those things. See what that does to your family. See what it does for the people that you hang out with. Some of those friends will actually, over a year or two, will see changes in you and will ask you, why are you different? And they'll want to do what you want to do. When you talk about discipling, that's what discipling is. It's not knocking on doors and handing out pamphlets. It's having people follow the way that you live without you even telling them. They just notice it in you. Watch what happens to your kids.
Your wife. Stuff like that.
All of it.
We're going to switch gears a little bit, okay? You're 59 years old. You knew something at 18, 19, your first truck, or maybe 17. Then you went there, you had a franchise, you did that stuff, then you went to work corporate. What are 2 or 3 things you can reiterate to the guys now? This is what I wish I knew when I was 25 to 30 that I know now at 59, and business principles that come from a spiritual capacity.
Some of them I touched on is In the Theo drama, your business in the Theo drama will grow and expand. It might be that you end up in the Theo drama changing something altogether, but success will follow. God created you in his image, and we're all sin-soaked. And God knows it. And I wish I would have came to Christ earlier. There's a part of me that was almost like, I got to clean myself up first. I got to reach this bar before I can show myself to God. God could give a damn about the bar. He does not care about that. He knows the real you. He knows what sin is, and he knows what it has done to you. And all he wants is your heart. I wish I would have known that. All he wants is your heart. Through time, he will show you, and you will change your life and how you father your kids, how you treat your wife, and how you grow your business will change, and that is real. The other thing is really understand the ego drama and the Theo drama. And if you take a look, let me throw an example out there. Look at abortion. I can talk about it because we were dealing with it with our first child. Ego drama is abort the baby, hit reset, and get on with your life, because that child, you didn't have any plans for that child. Theo drama is, because that's what the Theo drama is, God will bring unexpected things into your life, and when you are close enough to him, you will pray about these things and talk about these things. In the Theo drama, that baby's saved, like my daughter. My daughter now is a mother of two, a 4.5, and a 1-month-old baby girls that are our life. She married an Ecuadorian who I love every bit as much as my sons. These are all people that I would miss in my ego drama. And then, again, the fallout of your own ego drama is not pretty. That is one example out of several examples. So understand, it's another thing I wish I would have understood, Stan, is the difference between that ego drama and that Theo drama. There was a couple other ones that came to mind. This one sounds basic. Don't steal. Don't take anything that's yours. Even in your own business. Even in your taxes. You cannot have a relationship with Christ if you take something that's not yours. What you're telling Christ is that I don't trust you in your Theo drama. I'm going back to my ego drama. You pay your taxes, and you don't steal, and you don't cheat. Because what you're telling God to his face is, I don't trust you to take care of me. I'll take this in my own hands. And I wish I would have known that at a younger age, too.
Owning your own space. Give us a couple of thoughts on that and what you went through. You know the 3 buckets?
Okay, I'm going to say this one really quick, and this is one of my favorites. When I talked to the movers, and back in the day when we had the franchise, I would travel around the country, and we'd shut their trucks down, and I'd talk with the movers. I would sit them around, and these are all guys that can be anywhere between 20, most of them in their mid-20s, mid-30s, and some outliers that are in their 40s. And I'd ask them, and the women that were that answered the phones, I got them all in. I said, raise your hand if it was your goal to be a mover. And there would be crickets. There's nothing, you know. And I would say, that's funny to me either. I didn't plan on being a mover. I said, so when you were younger, did you, when you were playing cops and robbers in the front yard before the street lights came on, or you know, you were playing out these different roles, did you ever raise your hand and say, wait, it's my turn to be the mover? No, nobody. And what I would tell the guys, and I could tell you, and probably not as much in this group, but in almost any group I talk with, I could put all of you into one of 3 buckets. First bucket, a lot of you guys are first bucket guys. You took work off, you did something to come here. You guys did something to come here. Why did you come here? Because you were following Christ. Maybe it was a free lunch, I don't know. But you came here to better yourself. And I would tell that to the movers. And I would say, bucket 1 guys, you're here for a reason. You're using this money to go to college. You're using this money to save up, to go and live somewhere else and start a career. You're maybe looking up to become a manager in this business. In our business, 65% of the managers started out as movers and drivers and customer service reps. 48% of our franchisees started out as movers, drivers, and reps. Those are first bucket people. Several of our franchisees never went to college. Why is that? Because they used where they were to better themselves, work their way up. They used being a mover, a driver, a manager, an office manager. They use that as their college. And these guys, some of them are franchisees, some of them are multi-millionaires. They have 14, 15 different franchises, over 200 trucks, and they never went to college. Although they hire college, they hire IT people from college. They hire marketing people, finance people from college, but that's what they did. Those are first bucket. Second bucket guys, I look at them, I say, you don't even know why the hell you're here. Your goal, your aspirations were so much bigger than this, and now here you are moving furniture. And I'll talk with you guys in a second. The third group, you don't give a shit. You don't care. As a matter of fact, you're here in this room, I just don't know who you are. And the funny part is, you're not even listening to me right now. You're zoned out. Let me tell you about you, because I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive, okay? I've been doing this job longer than you've been sucking air on earth. Let me tell you what happens to you. You go from one job to another. These are lateral moves. Why? Not to better yourself, but you do it because it looks like it's easier money, or it's less hours, or it's cheaper work. You are going to do these lateral moves until you're in your mid to upper 30s, give or take a few years, and you're going to look around, you're going to wonder, what happened to all my friends? What happened to some of my family? They left you. And you know what? Only by the grace of God will you ever get out of this hellhole that you put yourself into. You will live hand to mouth for the rest of your life. You're in this room. I just don't know who you are. And that's sad. And you're not listening to me, and that's okay. I'm used to being around you. That usually catches their attention. I get a couple guys that will do this, you know. But what I tell them is, for the middle guys, in bucket 2, is own your own space. Look at the ceiling. You got all these different tiles. When you come here as a mover, your area of influence is one tile. Back then, we had 10,000 employees in the summer. We had thousands of movers. I said, your job as that mover is to be the best in that tile. It's to help back the truck up. It's to help fold the pads. It's to move furniture. Be the best at that area of influence. If you show up every single day when you're supposed to, with a uniform, proactive, with a good attitude, you may be asked to be a driver. When you become a driver, your area of influence just went to 2 squares, okay? You show up, you do a good job, all of a sudden you become a move manager, an estimator, a warehouse manager. Guess what that's called? It's called a career. That's the way they start. And that's the way they're supposed to start. I don't care what music you listen to and what they tell you about money and all this stuff. It's bullshit. You got to grind to be successful. You have to grind. And that's what this is. In the bucket 1 guys, I can see them because they're all just sitting there going, They all know it already. Second guys are like this. And I tell them that, does it ever feel like you are in a jail, that you are stuck here as a mover and you can't go anywhere and you're rattling the cage? Did you ever consider just pushing the door and walking out? Nobody's keeping you here except for you. Nobody is keeping you. God puts opportunities in front of us in all these different places, but guess what? They're wrapped in dirt. You got to grab them and you got to shake them out and make something happen. If you're so looking at yourself, like everything owes me, and I tell these guys, you guys, local, state, and federal government owe you nothing. This company, 2 Men a Truck, owes you precisely nothing. Your mom and your dad and your grandma and grandpa owe you nothing. God owes you precisely nothing. So don't sit around and think that somebody owes you something. Because once you think that somebody owes you something and they don't give it to you, guess what you are now? You are now a victim. You can't move until somebody else allows you to move. And you know what the funny part is? They don't even know it. They can't even manage their own lives, let alone disrupt yours. You are the only one. Everyone in that room has hurt. Everyone's been hurt by a coach, by a parent, by a teacher, by a spouse. Everyone has that pain. Don't be a victim of that pain. Understand that everybody has it. Getting back to God, God will tell you, and you will know it, not in church. I'm talking about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, that you are loved and adopted by God, no matter how you are handled. And he's going to open up opportunities for you, but get into his Theo drama and work with him. Dominate your area of influence. Be the best at it. Know the corners of it and rock it. And then it will grow to a second one. It always does.
Well, thank you for that. All right, what we're going to do right quick, changing plans just a little bit on the fly with this stuff. I'm going to ask Brig to go over there with Connor so he can sell those books for $25. Connor will take your cash and Brig will sign it. Okay, that's number one. I'll wrap up this part of the conversation. So Brig, if you go, give him a hand of applause. Tell him thanks for coming. Thank you, buddy. We're down that way. So we talk about a victim in this thing. You realize the word victim does not appear in Scripture? It's not a biblical word. God does not make victims. Open up your own space, open up the jail door, walk out. If you want somebody to grind it out with you, you found the man in Dallas to help you. We will grind it out with you. And if I don't have an answer, I know Brig has several answers. We'll fly up to Lansing and talk to him. I know Clark has answers about stuff in real estate. And I don't know, Orlando, where are you? He's got some answers. He's a seasoned guy from the Dominican Republic and is an American citizen. These guys have truth in their hearts. And I don't know some of you guys, but we're not victims. Do you believe you're a victim? Well, go home and go suck on your thumb for a while longer. We're not. We're going to take the hill together, transforming the information you got here through the Holy Spirit. Write down what you learned and take it with you. So, Brig, I want you over there at that table. Sorry, Coach. You got to go sign some books, and we're going to go sell them, okay? So, Connor, raise your hand so you know where you are, all right? So, scoot over there. So, if you happen to have, July 21st, okay? We got Dave Arnott coming, a professor of management economics over there. Get that cue. Now, I know economics is boring, but Dave is not a boring economist. He's not. He's about 6'3". He was on Prager University 2 weeks ago. He talks to a lot of people. He's a down-to-earth, and one thing he will share is the difference between capitalism and socialism, capitalism and communism. He'll bring it down to the grassroots. And I have 3 books over here left over. In fact, my friend Wayne Krull has one, but Nate, you got one right there. Hold it up. Guys, this guy, they researched 2,350 scriptures that reference money in the Old and New Testament and wrote out the 10 commandments of financial position from God to run your Theo drama. Now, if you want, we can have 120 people here next month or in July if you bring one person. Now, if you learned anything here today, take it home. Read his book because it is rich and it's simple to read. So I say thank you for coming. Thank you for taking your time. I appreciate you. If you want to meet somebody, go shake his hand because you're just a couple points away from meeting the next guy that gets you one step closer in the process of knowing God to where he wants you to go, not where I want you to go. Okay? We together? So thank you, gentlemen. And Laura, God bless you. See you next time.